Angus, it's a great pleasure to introduce to you all, those who need introducing, to Right Worshipful Barry Burchill, my good friend and brother. Barry was born in Ottawa in February 1962, 2 years before I was initiated. He attended Fisher Heights Public School, Sir Winston Churchill Middle School, and graduated with honors from Meadowvale High School, where he was active in sports and on the Students' Council. He's worked for Computing Devices Canada since 1982. He joined Acacia Lodge 561 in September 89 and served as Worshipful Master 96 and again in 2002-03. In 2006, he was elected District Deputy Grand Master of Ottawa District 1, and it was then that I met him, because that was the year I became Worshipful Master of St. Andrew's Lodge for the second time. He's been a member of the Board of General Purposes since 2008, with appointments, elections, and more latterly, an honorary membership. He's chaired long-range planning, seminars and workshops. In 2005, he was appointed to a 2-year term on the Management Committee. 2015, sorry, 2 years, and now serves as Chairman for Youth Initiatives. He's also an affiliated member of Mississippi Lodge 147 and a past first principal of Dockard Chapter, Royal Arch Masons, appointed Grand Pursuivant of the Grand Chapter of Royal Arch Masons in 2008. Also, in the York Rite, he is a member of Capital City Council Allied Masonic Degrees of Canada and served them as District Deputy Grand Master in 2008. He's also a member of St. Justin's Conclave and Adoniram Council, number 3 of the Order of the High Priesthood. He is also a member of the Ottawa Valley of Scottish Rite Masonry and was made an Honorary Inspector General 33 degrees last year. Barry's a member of Tunis Shrine. He has served in various appointment, divan, and temple positions from 2004 and has served as the coordinator of the Tunis degree team from 2011 and still sits as master of that degree team. He is an active and proud member of the Tunis Oriental Band, so he has a high degree of musical accomplishment, serves as secretary treasurer, and a member in regular parades with the Tunis Hillbillies. Outside of Masonry, he's been active on the Draft Horse Show for many years. He has been Draft Horse Show circuit for many years, being a driver and groom to several Clydesdale hitch teams in the Ottawa Valley, as well as still showing. He's also branched out into announcing draft horse shows and at the fall fairs of many districts in this area, you'll hear Barry's voice. Barry also likes to golf and to curl. He's married to Sandy. They have 2 sons, Ken, who's 31, and Joe is 26. Ken is a past master of Goodwood Lodge 159 and a past Grand Lodge officer. Joe was initiated as a member of Goodwood Lodge in October 2017 and is now in the higher ranks of the officer corps. I want to just add that Barry is a great example as a Mason. He can be found on most snowy days out in the braving the elements, not only digging out his own driveway, but many of the neighbors on his street. So he's a good fellow, and he'll do anyone a favor just by asking. It's my great pleasure to introduce my friend and brother, Right Worshipful Brother Barry Burchill.
Thank you so much, John, for the introduction. And Angus, thank you very much for the invitation to speak here tonight. As it's Saturday night and just a little bit after 7, we normally hear, hello, Canada and hockey fans in the United States and Newfoundland. So we'll start with that tonight. My talk tonight is titled, When Life and Masonry Collide. I'm going to talk about 3 incidents and 4 incidents in total, 3 and 1 that proved that I joined a great organization. In '88, I was looking for something besides playing sports and married and baby on the way and work. I explored Civitans and the Lions Club and such like, and they were never to my liking. I wasn't ready to do the public fraternity thing. And because I had a couple of uncles, and see, my family was entrenched in the Orange Lodge. So the term lodge or fraternal or going to lodge, it's lodge night, was not something foreign to me. But the Orange Lodge, because of its fact that it's based on one religion only and not inclusive, didn't really appeal to me. I did have two uncles that were Masons, and my stepfather's best friend was a Mason. And many people that I known through work and over my lifetime that were Freemasons left a good impression on me. And the fact that it was sort of a mystery, the unknown, is what drew me to Freemasonry. And I worked with a fellow named Alan Seabright, Burchill brother Alan Seabright, and he was a member of Acacia Lodge. And it turns out when I got talking to him, an old neighbor of ours whose son I went to school with and was in our wedding party, Steve Williams, his dad Vic was a member of the same lodge. So they were my sponsors. So those of you who are candidates or in your early degrees, you've heard it said that Masonry makes good men better. Now, the only benchmark I have for that is my own self. And I can assume that as I pass the investigating board and the secret ballot, that the members of Acacia Lodge felt me to be a good man. But all these years later, have I become a better man? And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. Starting things off, a couple of years into Masonry, we a bit of a negative pall fell on Acacia Lodge, as sometimes lodges do. Personalities clashed and guys quit, and it was a bit negative, I must say. And for us newer guys, it wasn't great. But, you know, about the same time, my wife's stepdad took me aside, and he had been a member of the craft, and he found it not a good experience. The lodge he was in the Barrie area, the members used it as their own private business club. They kept other businessmen out of renting on the main street if they weren't Masons, and all this kind of stuff that you hear about. Plus a couple of stories in the news and what have you. So there's a little bit of a, there's a doubt cast in my mind if I'd made the right choice. As it turns out, that summer, right where our worshipful brother Russell Turner, who was a good friend of mine in the horse business and a past master in Mississippi Lodge, him and I took a team of horses down to a community in east of Ottawa in Finch to do a wedding, to tour the bride and groom around the town. So we did our thing. We parked the truck and got the horses ready and loaded the horses and headed for home. We stopped for gas partway home, and Russell couldn't find his wallet. And needless to say, as any man, when you lose your wallet, a little bit of panic sets in. We got back to the farm in Almont, and the next morning at first light, Russell took off back to where we were parked to see if he could find his wallet, but to no avail. So on the way home, he called me and he said, "Well, Barry, I guess I'll have to go home and cancel my cards and start from scratch. I couldn't find my wallet." About 2 hours later, the phone rang and it was Russell again. And he said, "Guess what? I got home, there was a message on my machine. A fellow in Kempville was going out to get the mail, and he saw this thing lying on the road. He picked it up and saw the square and compass on the wallet and went back in the house and phoned Russell and said, 'I'm a member of Mount Zion Lodge in Kempville. I just happened to find your wallet lying on the road by my mailbox. Give me a call back and I can either meet you somewhere or we'll arrange for you to get the wallet back.'" So that story alone said to me that indeed there's two strangers who've never met one another, and the fact that because of the Masonic connection, this wallet was returned in perfect condition with all the money therein. The funny story was that the wallet rode on the gas tank of his truck all the way from Cornwall to Kempville before it fell off. So it had quite a journey. Just happened to fall off in front of a Mason's house. So with a renewed sense that Masonry was for me, I went ahead through the chairs and became master. And as life would have it, I moved. I really enjoyed Masonry and just kept moving ahead. So one night, there was a local restaurant, bar, restaurant, pub here that we frequent, Sandy and I, and this one night, for some reason, I was in there myself and having dinner, and a lady came in and sat a couple of bar stools down. She was she knew one of the servers, and she was saying that her son had been in the hospital. He was at the Senators hockey game on it was a Saturday night, on the Wednesday night before, and got into an altercation with a Leaf fan and ended up getting a broken jaw and was in the hospital. And I said, oh my, I said, I happen to be a Leaf fan, but there's no excuse for behavior like that at the hockey game. And, you know, I went back to my pint and whatever I was doing, and my dinner came, and she was sitting there, and when she finished her dinner, she got up, marched down the two stools, tapped me on the shoulder and said, well, I hope you're happy. My son's lying in the hospital with a broken jaw, and you Leaf fans are sitting here eating steak. You can go, and I won't use the word in a Masonic context, yourself, you're nothing but a loser. And she stormed out of the restaurant. So I was somewhat flabbergasted, to say the least. My flabber was definitely gassed. And anyway, I just collected myself and went back to my meal. About 5 minutes later, she came back in the restaurant, quite agitated, quite upset, crying. She had lost her keys. I looked down where she was sitting, and her keys were lying between the rail and the bar, the seat and the bar. Now, this is where I had a decision to make. I could have just got up and went to the washroom. I could have just sat there and said nothing. But I got up, I picked up her keys, and I said to her, ma'am, here's your keys, they were on the floor. Well, she sort of broke down, apologized profusely for what she had said, and, you know, she clearly needed to talk about this incident. So I ushered her to the bar, and she sat down, and the serving staff got her a coffee, and she spent about 10 minutes telling me this story about her son. She calmed down and went on her way. And at that snapshot in time, that evening in Big Daddy's Crab Shack, I was the exact two things she needed. Someone to vent her frustration at, and someone to tell her story to. So again, I don't know if I wasn't a Mason, if I'd have picked up those keys. You know, the help your fellow man was in my mind. There's this lady who is clearly in distress at this moment, and I can fix it, or at least try to fix it. And that's how I reacted. The second little incident was I was on my way to the Royal Arch Masons Curling Bonspiel in Elmont. It was a snowy morning. We had snow overnight. And I'm going down, those of you in Ottawa know the Queensway at Moody Drive. And I glance over, and just as at the bottom of the on-ramp coming on from Moody, there's a car up on the snowbank with its front end facing the road. As I go by, I see these two little hands and these two little eyes peeking out over the steering wheel. I thought, oh my Jesus. So I have to get off at Eagleson, cross over, get back on, come back the other way, get off at Moody, and come down the ramp. And there's a little Italian lady sitting there hanging onto the wheel for dear life. So I park the truck, and I go over and I ask her if she's okay. Is there any, she could use, do you have a phone, or you can use mine? As I said, no, thank you. My son's on the way. He'll be here any minute. I said, well, do you want me to wait? She said, would you mind? I said, no, not at all. I said, would you like to get out of your car? She said, no, I think I'm just fine right here. So I sat in my truck, and it was about 10 minutes. Her son pulled up and thanked me for stopping. And once again, going by that car and seeing the two little eyes there was no way I could not turn around and go back. And again, I take that as a lesson I learned in Masonry, to go back and help this lady that day. The last little story has to do with I went to visit a lodge in just, I got a drink of tea here, and it is tea. I'll save the good stuff for later. Went to visit a lodge in Renfrew. I'm not so sure it wasn't Right Worshipful John Forrester's official visit in Renfrew. And they had a little bit of a parking lot at the bottom of on Raglan Street there. And God, I got into the parking lot and went to back out. And God, if I didn't crease the back of a guy's car SUV behind me, and did a fairly good job on it. So anyway, I didn't know where he lived or whether he was worked in a business, sort of a municipal parking lot. So I left a note and on his windshield and whatnot. And the next day, he phoned me and we traded the necessary information and whatnot. And so that incident, that was something that my parents told me. You always take responsibility for things you do. But what struck me about that, I told that story to some people I work with and other people, and the reaction I got from probably 70% of the people I told that story to is they said, why didn't you just drive away? Why didn't you just drive away? And again, as a Freemason, there was no way I was going to drive away. As a responsible adult, there was no way I was just going to drive away. So I didn't. Then we got settled up. So my brother, and these are the types of things that have happened to me in my life up to now. These are just 3 incidences where I know Freemasonry helped me make the right decision. I don't know for sure if I never joined the craft, I may not have made the same decisions, but I do know that because I'm a member, those are the decisions that I must make. I must do the right thing at all times. I also have found out that since I've joined the craft, although nobody likes to go to wakes, nobody likes to go, I find myself making time to go to comfort a friend who has a family member have passed away, rather than trying to find an excuse not to go. The same thing goes with visiting friends or family in the hospital, or giving someone a call when they're under the weather. Another thing I find I have more of now is patience in a restaurant or in a store when it's busy and you may not get your food right away, or they may not come to take your order. I realize as a Mason, to put my best foot forward, that maybe that young lady or young gentleman is not having the best day either. And there may be reasons why the kitchen is backed up. So you're usually with good company and good friends. Just enjoy the time you're there. I think that those of us who are progressing through, those of you who are progressing through your degrees, you're going to find all this out for yourself. That you're going to become the best man you can be because of what you're going to learn going forward. And Angus, I'd like to just end the formal part of my talk today with this is from a quote from Gary L. Atkinson at the 151st annual communication of our Grand Lodge in July 2006. And just before I read this, I'd like to mention that on here tonight, there's Right Worshipful Brother Gary McGregor and Right Worshipful Brother Bev Burl, Right Worshipful Brother Leonard Vincent, that were all District Deputy Grand Masters with me. And as I like to say to GLA, that Hall of Fame class of 06-07. So this is from the Grand Master's Address, July 2006. My brethren, I remind you, what we have done for ourselves dies with us. What we have done for others remains with them for their lifetime. As we take the next step into our 152nd year, I remind you what Freemasonry has been for generations and what it should continue to be. Freemasonry is kindness in the home, honesty in business, courtesy in society, fairness in work, concern for the unfortunate, resistance towards the wicked, trust in the strong, forgiveness for the penitent, love for one another, and above all, reverence and love for the great architect of the universe. Masonry is many things, but most of all, Masonry is a way of life. And I thank you very much for your attention tonight, my brethren.